In this video I will talk about the choice of my summoner spells on Ezreal. There are a lot of factors which will influence my decision to go a certain summoner spell over another one, but generally I will only use these 4 summoner spells right here. Alright, before the video starts holy shit. Alright, before the video starts though, I need to plug the Twitch and shout out our community, the No Incorporation, you already know. We peaked over 30 viewers in the last 8-hour stream, and I will be streaming pretty much every day, so check me out if you want to. Alright, first of all I will give you pros and cons on each summoner spell, and I will also give actual in-game examples later into the video. But starting off with the first and most common summoner spell in Ezreal, which is Heal. It is a combat summoner spell, which will maximize the fighting potential you have in a 2v2. It will apply on 2 champions, and will also grant a little movement speed buff. And because it applies on 2 champions, it's very efficient for fights during the laning phase. You basically want to go for heal when you think you're gonna be fighting 2v2s in a bot lane. This will often be the case when you have a melee support matchup, since both melee supports will probably Pepega engage on each other, so it's pretty much guaranteed that there will be a lot of fighting going on. This is also why it can be beneficial when you have an all-in support like Leona, or even a cash support like Thresh and Nautilus. Leona, for example, pretty much turns every single lane matchup into a kill line, and the movement speed from heal can be used aggressively too to help Leona engage on enemies. Heal is definitely the strongest combat summoner in early laning phase, and probably even in the whole laning phase. You also want to take heal when you are duo kill with your support, so it's actually not a waste hitting your support since your synergy will be much better than with a random support. Now for the disadvantages of heal. Heal scales very bad compared to other summoner spells such as Exhaust and Cleanse. If we check the stats here, heal on level 18 will heal you for 345 HP, and it will only heal you for 200 if you have the Grievous Wounds debuff. In late game, there's not even one attack worth of healing. All of you are probably familiar with Talon or Rengar one-shotting you despite using heal. It just feels so worthless offlane the majority of times because there's just too much damage in the game right now. Heal also has longer cooldown than Exhaust and Cleanse, which both only have 210 seconds cooldown. Another minor disadvantage of heal is that it can be wasted on Pepega supports. If your support is a bad player in general, it can be a waste taking heal just for 2v2 potential in lane, when in reality, you aren't even in a position for 2v2 to begin with. Exhaust will just be more effective in these kind of games and is generally more useful for solo queue and will help you peel for yourself a lot more than heal. Since heal just feels so worthless against assassins, especially in the later stages of the game, many high elo players and pros have been switching to Exhaust lately. If you exhaust someone for 3 seconds late game, it's guaranteed to be more effective than heal. It will easily block more damage, and you might even be able to turn on the enemy. You generally want to take Exhaust if the enemy has some kind of burst champions, preferably melee, cause Exhaust actually has a pretty short range. Champions like Rengar, Keta, Blue Kayn, or even Irelia are optimal matchups for Exhaust. Exhaust will help you survive disgusting burst damage from enemy soul laners and junglers. It will also boost your dual link potential by a lot, ultimately being able to 1v1 almost any champ from mid to late game. Additionally, it scales very well in general and can potentially take key players of the enemy team out of a team fight. For example, if you time your Exhaust well against Wukong ultimate, it can have huge impact on a team fight, more than any other summoner spell for sure. Exhaust also has only a 210 second cooldown compared to heal, which has 240 seconds. It can also be very useful for setting up ganks. As Ezreal, you can just E in and exhaust the enemy to secure skill shots and help your teammates catch the enemy easier. Now for the weaknesses of Exhaust. One big weakness of Exhaust is definitely that it is pretty inefficient on lane, since you can only exhaust one target. Supports and ADCs actually will deal similar damage in the early game. Believe it or not, we are really that doomed in Season 10. So if you exhaust the ADC, the support will still deal the same damage, while the ADC can just retreat for some seconds. This is why in early lane fights, heal will outperform Exhaust every single time. Exhaust can also be hard to utilize optimally, since you require vision of the enemy and you need to be in range. You basically need to click the enemy, which can be difficult if the enemy has stealth or a lot of mobility. Like, it can be hard to time Rengar jumping on you, and it's just impossible to exhaust Kha'Zix or Talon coming at you out of nowhere, right? The low range of Exhaust can also be pretty bad against range matchups like Caitlyn. You will never get in their range and will never be able to exhaust them. Lastly, if the enemy has no burst threats, it can feel very worthless to run Exhaust, since you will basically never see opportunities to use your Exhaust effectively. Okay, next up is Teleport. TP recently got a mini rework, and before the rework, basically every single S player used to go teleport on him. The rework changed the TP cooldown, which used to be flat and stale, to a cooldown that scales now with your level. Additionally, you will also get a little movement speed buff after TPing. And because the cooldown is so much longer in the early game, not many pros go TP nowadays. This is because early game is especially important in high elo. Games are effectively decided in 10 or 15 minutes, so you can really just use your TP once, while heal has potentially 3 to 4 usages in the same time span. But even after rework, many people, and me included, still like to go TP on Ezreal. And you could even argue that the mini rework was actually good for Ezreal players in lower elos. This is because Ezreal is actually very safe at being sideline against the correct matchup. Like, if the enemy team doesn't have something like a G who can just run you down and defend you very easily, you can pretty much split against most champions. You don't need to be able to 1v1 them, it's enough if you can just manage to survive and run away from them. That should be enough pressure most of the times. Now for the strengths of teleport. TP will give you very good base timings, which are essential for Ezreal. Since Ezreal is lacking wave clear and has some mana issues, it can be hard to find good base timings without TP. It's also useful if your support has no sustain and you have a losing matchup. You can just base and TP back to not get destroyed in lane. Pi, for example, provides basically nothing at all except for a dogshit hook, and every pike lane is basically a losing lane, so he will most likely be roaming the whole game anyways. This just makes it way better to just run TP and focus on CSing. Also, not getting destroyed in lane on Ezreal is actually very important because your laning phase is not that good to begin with. In my opinion, Ezreal spikes the first time at level 10 when he has Manamune, Sheen and 40% CDR, so it's always a good approach to play consistent and just relax until then. The movement speed from TP actually feels pretty nice and can be used for flanks in teamfights. If the enemy has no champions that can kill you in a 1v1, you are actually pretty good at side lane splitting on Ezreal, and the solo XP is very good too. Alright, a huge weakness of TP is that it will obviously have no impact on combat. The long cooldown in early levels is also kinda bad, and for some players, TP can be hard to utilize correctly. If you're just gonna aim mid lane and low elo, what's the point of going TP, right? If you are running TP, you should try to split side lane and TP into the team fight, or take towers if you think it's not worth fighting for you yet, since you might be lacking items. One last minor thing is that your Pepega support might also tilt because you took TP instead of a combat summoner. This used to happen to me a lot pre-changes, but nowadays if I run TP, I don't really see anyone tilting anymore. Generally speaking though, you should always take the summoner you feel most comfortable with and never listen to your teammates. The last summoner is Cleanse, which is a very niche summoner spell. It can effectively be completely useless or very OP, all depending on the matchup. I pretty much only take Cleanse when I'm up against CC that will kill me every time I get caught. Examples are something like Varus Leona lanes. If Varus hits me with his ultimate, I am dead. If Leona hits me with any stun, I am dead too. No heal or exhaust are gonna save me in that kind of situation. Just keep in mind that if you're against Leona, to make sure to cleanse her Q, which is her shield attack stun or her ultimate stun, you should never cleanse her gap closer E stun because it's only 0.25 seconds. And you can also take cleanse if the enemy has good cleansable CC like TF Gold Card, Thresh Hook or Fiddle Fear. It can be beneficial to run cleanse in such games since it can also be useful in combat as you are able to cleanse, ignite and exhaust. Alright, now looking into some actual in-game examples, starting off with heal. As you can see, I went heal only once in like my last 40 games. I chose to go heal in this matchup because after level 6, we can't really avoid Varus and Nautilus engage, it's just too much to handle. So since we have to fight eventually, I chose to go heal for the maximum 2v2 potential, even though our 2v2 is kinda dogshit compared to Varus and Nautilus. And in case you were wondering, yeah, Karma kinda entered this game and this matchup's kinda doomed, honestly. Alright, next up Exhaust. I went Exhaust in this game because the enemy team has Hecarim and Riven. I don't need TP on lane because I have a bot support who has decent healing, and enemy bot lane is pretty easy to handle for me. Heal will be useless too, since Vayne and Blitz can never really engage on me. I can just negate all the engage attempts easily with my E. Just look at how good Exhaust is against Hecarim though. Like, if he charges at you with his E and you manage to time your Exhaust, it will negate like 90% of his damage, honestly. Same goes for the Riven Burst, of course. Somehow we still managed to lose this game because the AD gap was just too big, man. Like, actually astronomical AD gap, can't do much about it. Also, if enemy team has Zed, Nocturne, and just pretty much point and click burst damage in general, always take Exhaust, right? Like, Zed can never kill you if you have exhaust, same goes for Nocturne, but be careful with his ability shield, man, he can actually fuck you up. Alright, in this match I went for TP, because the enemy support is Nami and I have a Karma support. Karma provides no sustain, so we can never trade, and if we happen to trade, we'll get shit on because, as I already said, we have no sustain and our trade is actually worse than the enemy. So it's better to just take the L in this lane and play it safe and farm it up. Also, it's not worth taking exhaust just for Lucian and Elise. TF has no burst damage and Vlad can just pull or delay his damage easily to play exhaust. Okay, the last example is Cleanse, and I went Cleanse in this game because the enemy team has Zoe and Thresh. Honestly, I just took it for Zoe bubble. Alright, another game where I ran Cleanses because the enemy team had Twisted Fate Gold card, Lulu Polymorph, and the Zac thingy you can cleanse too. This TF has been twisting my nuts since like the last 5 games, so I knew he's gonna camp me again. I just told my Senna to go heal, so it will be difficult for the enemy